Different Practices for Different People. Written by Short Storytelling. Read by Short Storytelling. It's no great thing to say that different people will have different practices. What is a great thing is discovering new habits for your partner. In any kind of a relationship, discovering the tendencies of others can tell you a lot about them and yourself. Few things can tell you more about a person than how they react to the unexpected. Case in point, I learned some great things about my amazing new girlfriend this week when one of my habits popped up unexpectedly. A little background is in order. My most applicable habit is that I crack my knuckles. For those of you not in the know, this is the practice of flexing and pressing on joints, usually fingers, until the bubble of fluid in the joint ruptures, making an audible popping noise. It isn't painful, and as a lifetime practitioner, I find it relaxing and pleasing. To the uninitiated, though, it can be painful and unexpected. Most joints of the body can be popped. This is likely most notable with the knees and back as we age, but the shoulders, fingers, and toes are all joints that can commonly crack either on purpose or unintentionally. On the night in question, my girlfriend and I were sitting on the couch together. We were each on one end, backs to the high arms, facing each other. We were both fully dressed, with our legs intertwined, and nothing untoward was happening. She was covered with a blanket, and I was rubbing her feet over her socks, but under the blanket. We were watching a television show together, a simple murder mystery with overtones of comedy, and enjoying our time together. After sitting for a while, she commented that her feet were cold, and she wasn't able to warm them up. Being a compassionate soul, I began to rub her feet. My hands are typically warm, and I was doing my best to both massage her feet and warm them up at the same time. This is the point where things took an unexpected turn. Distracted by the show we were watching, I began to move my hands almost automatically, massaging each toe in turn. This reflexive action is my only excuse for what happened. I grabbed the index toe of her right foot with my thumb and forefinger and pulled it out and down. It's worth noting that I do pop my toes. Not as often as I pop the knuckles of my fingers, but I do on occasion pop my toes intentionally. This usually involves raising my foot and pressing my toes into the floor, bending them against the bottom of my foot. As I've been cracking them for years, they yield quite easily. Occasionally, I service them by pulling them by hand, which often results in a more satisfying release. It was even a game I played with my children, popping their toes while they screamed and giggled. My attention more on our show than my fingers, I suddenly heard her cry out with a loud "Ow!" immediately followed by a loud pop in her toe. I turned to look at her, my hand releasing her toe, and she immediately burst into laughter. This was no simple giggle, but a raucous belly laugh. It was quickly followed with a barely discernible "What the hell?" as her laughter continued. Surprised by her sudden fit of laughter, I turned to her and immediately followed suit. Quality laughter, especially the full body and good-natured example before me, is extremely contagious. My laughter was equally jovial, and I found myself sputtering, trying to respond to her. I tried to apologize and explain, but my own laughter was making it equally difficult for me to speak. We laughed together for several long minutes, myself relieved at how well she responded to my blunder. No anger or indignation, just real mirth and understanding, followed by a request to ask first next time. This is an important side point, that consent does not just apply to reproductive actions, but indeed to any action that the recipient may be opposed to. This could include not wanting to hear an off-color joke, or just not wanting to have someone standing so close to them. You see, it's up to the individual receiving the action to determine if consent is required or not. This rule applies not just to legal arguments, but to general etiquette as well. Despite my faux pas, my partner was quite gracious, instead of finding the whole situation amusing. Even more impressive was her willingness to laugh with me and not at me. She did not push her point or make any snide comments, instead taking the opportunity to gently chide me while we both guffawed until our bellies hurt. In that moment, I learned a lot about my partner, what kind of person she is and how she treats others. I learned that she values our connection more than a minor discomfort, and that she is unlikely to fly off the handle or lash out even when justifiably provoked. In short, her elegance and kindness is no act, but part of who she is. My own hope is to be worthy of who she is, to be equally forgiving and courteous in the unlikely event that she hurts my feelings in some way. I feel lucky and quite thankful to have her in my life. It's situations like these where I learn how to be a better person by rising to her example. Of course, the other thing I learned is to ask permission before popping someone else's joints. My own habits do not excuse pushing them on someone else. I doubt she would crack up in the same way next time.